What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Joe Rogan says Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou can still happen. When Francis Ngannou parted ways with the UFC, many fans wrote off a potential scrap between he and Jon Jones. With the two men competing in rival promotions and the UFC remaining steadfast in their refusal to cross-promote, many fans closed the book on the fight. According to longtime commentator Joe Rogan, however, all hope has not been lost. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, he spoke about the situation.
It could happen, yeah. Francis has his contract with the PFL. Let's say he fights out his contract. Let's say he fights Tyson Fury, and then he fights out his contract, and then at the end of the contract, the UFC offers him a giant chunk of money to fight Jon Jones. So let's say if Jon Jones fights Stipe, who knows who wins that fight, right? And then maybe if he wins, Jon Jones fights Sergey Pavlovich, who's a very scary guy who's coming through the ranks. There's not a lot of really Tom Aspinall, so maybe it's Tom Aspinall. So depending, but if Jon Jones wins all those, and Francis wins in the PFL and then leaves, and then they could have another fight, and that would be bonkers.
Of course, the upcoming UFC 295 clash between Stipe and Jones could very well be the heavyweight champ's last fight inside the octagon. Shout out to our first comments on yesterday's video. Thanks for the support. Next, let's take a look at Conor McGregor and Khabib go back and forth. 5 years ago, on October 6th, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov squared off in what many consider to be the biggest fight in UFC history. On the anniversary of the historic win, the Eagle took to Instagram, taking aim at McGregor by posting a photo of the fight along with a caption which translates to, "I wanted to chat here in my own language, but the dialogue never took place." The caption, of course, was a nod to Nurmagomedov's famous "Let's talk now" line to McGregor that was picked up by cage-side mics during the fight. McGregor, on the other hand, commemorated the events of the night, writing, "Dead rats in the swamp," in response to a photo of the brawl that followed the fight. The Eagle doesn't often make mention of McGregor, with Daniel Cormier famously joking that Nurmagomedov only refers to McGregor as "this guy." Despite that, it sounds as though the animosity between the two is alive and well ahead of McGregor's return. On the flip side, while Nurmagomedov has shown no indications that he'll return to competition, he recently joined Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi for his final preparations for UFC 294. Next, let's take a look at Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira backup. Heading into UFC 294's lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira, the UFC has tapped Mateusz Gamrot to be the backup fighter in the event that either of the two fighters is unable to make it to the octagon on October 21st. Gamrot took to Twitter with a message to his fans and the main event fighters, writing, "See you in Abu Dhabi," along with a picture of he in his corner pre-fight. While we recently saw Colby Covington awarded a title shot after weighing in as a backup fighter, it seems unlikely that Gamrot will get the next crack at the 155-pound title. With Justin Gaethje fresh off a victory over Dustin Poirier, the expectation is that he will face the winner of the upcoming title fight between Makhachev and Oliveira. With the new year right around the corner and Gamrot emerging unscathed from his recent fight with Rafael Fiziev, it'll be interesting to see who the UFC matches him up with next. Well, it looks like Dana White also confirmed the backup last night during a post-fight press conference. This is what Dana White had to say.
Just a couple things outside of tonight. Mateusz Gamrot, he announced that he's the backup for Islam and Charles in Abu Dhabi. Can you confirm that he will be the backup fighter?
He announced that? How did he announce it?
It's an interview in Poland, I believe, that was translated that he said in an interview that he was going to be the backup for that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, let's shift gears and take a look at UFC Fight Updates. Although this weekend delivered an action-packed night of fights at the UFC Apex, there are plenty more exciting fights on the horizon. Without further ado, let's jump into today's UFC Fight Updates. UFC Vegas 81. With Marc-Andre Barriault out of his scheduled fight, Michel Pereira will now square off with Andrei Petroski in a highly anticipated showdown that will see Pereira look to return for the first time since last May, when he extended his win streak to 5 with an impressive outing against Santiago Ponzinibbio. On the flip side, Petroski will be looking to build on the recent victory over Gerald Meerschaert back at UFC 292. Next up on the calendar, we have an update regarding the UFC 294 card. According to reports, Nasruddin Imavov has been forced out of his scheduled fight, with Ikram Aliskerov now taking on Warlley Alves. The fight will see Aliskerov look to build on an impressive victory in his UFC debut against Phil Hawes, while Alves will look to snap a 2-fight skid. Next month at UFC Fight Night Sao Paulo, Daniel Santos and Daniel Marcos were set to compete in an exciting showdown. However, Santos has now been forced out of the bout. According to reports, the UFC is currently seeking a replacement opponent in order to keep Marcos on the card. Last but certainly not least, we have a bout between Preston Parsons and Basil Hafez added to UFC Vegas 83 on January 13th. The bout will see Parsons look to bounce back from a split decision loss to Trevin Giles, while Hafez looks to bounce back from a split decision loss to Jack Della Maddalena in his UFC debut this summer. Jon Jones fires back at UFC competitor. One championship head, Chatri Sityodtong, recently made some controversial comments that the UFC puts on fights with sloppy, mediocre striking because of the high number of D1 wrestlers who make the transition to MMA without being experienced strikers. As he explained, at one, fighters are already world champions by the time they arrive, resulting in higher quality fights. The comments didn't sit well with heavyweight champion Jon Jones, who took some time off from his preparations for Stipe Miocic to fire back at Sityodtong in Instagram comments, writing, "Bro, this doesn't make anybody want to watch your show anymore. You just sound like a hater. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. Stay in your lane and do the best you can. Without the UFC, there would be no one." While One Championship has received quite a bit of negative publicity lately for their restrictive contracts, the promotion has continued to generate considerable interest among fans thanks to their weekly Friday fights on YouTube and the offering of MMA and other combat sports such as Muay Thai, kickboxing, and Jiu-Jitsu. With Sityodtong frequently fielding questions from media members before and after events, just like Dana White, there's a very good chance that he responds to Jones in the coming weeks leading up to the promotion's One Fight Night 16 event on November 3rd. Next up, let's take a look at Shan Strickland SLAMS UFC fighter. Although Belal Muhammad can no longer carry the Palestinian flag to the octagon, his support of Palestine landed him in the crosshairs of middleweight champion Shan Strickland, who responded to a tweet from Muhammad with a scathing response. After Muhammad wrote, "Pray for Palestine," Strickland responded, writing, "This is what you'd call a coward response. Instead of taking a stand against terrorism and advocating for a peaceful resolution, you say this dumb shit. Ignoring what just happened. Belal, you were born in America. You live in America. Just shut the fuck up." So far, Muhammad has yet to respond to the middleweight champ. However, that could change in the coming days, given the fact that Muhammad remains active on social media and Strickland rarely, if ever, holds his tongue. Dana White reveals UFC rule change ahead of UFC 294. According to Dana, the flag ban is now over, and fighters can now bring a flag if they would like to. Here's what Dana White had to say about it.
Fighters were allowed to walk out with flags, have their flags in the octagon. Can you just talk about the decision to bring them back?
Yeah, flags are back. Yeah. I was on vacation during the Mexican Independence Day, and the no flag thing drove me crazy. And I was like, yeah, f that, we're bringing flags back. It drove me crazy. There's a lot of things that go on in a company this big. You can't micromanage everything, and sometimes things are done for the intentions of the right reasons and whatever. Everybody in this room knows the way that I feel about a lot of things. Basically, I don't give a f is the answer to most things. Everybody's too soft, everybody's too sensitive about everything. You know, when the decision was made to do this, I was just kind of like, what's the big deal if they don't have, and Mexican Independence Day flipped the switch for me, and I was like, that's enough. I'm done with the no flags. So flags are back. If any flags hurt your feelings, too fucking bad.
Next up, let's take a look at MMA Community goes off on Khamzat. Khamzat Chimaev's recent post regarding Israel and Palestine has left many fans unhappy with the streaking two-division contender. Ahead of his upcoming UFC 294 clash with Paulo Costa, Chimaev may have lost a number of fans. While tweeting a photo of Palestinians gathering and waving flags, he posted several hearts, earning him criticism from fans, with one writing, "I wonder what kind of human it takes to post this the day Israeli civilians were purposely massacred or kidnapped." Another fan responded to Chimaev's tweet, writing, "Well, time to unfollow." Another fan replied, indicating that the post from the former Swedish national wrestling champ has turned him against Chimaev, writing, "Damn, I have to root for Costa now." While another fan responded to Chimaev, writing, "Khamzat should say this to Israel military face like a man." Leading up to UFC 294, Chimaev could wind up getting asked about the situation by media members during the course of fight week. Top comments. Cormier is wrong. The most disrespectful thing you could do is expect a guy who has never boxed to beat the heavyweight champion of the world. Belal thinking he could get a fight against Shan Strickland when Shan is the middleweight champion and Belal isn't even in that weight class is wild. If Islam wins, the Volk rematch should definitely wait until after Justin gets his shot. It's a huge money fight, and he deserves it more than anyone. Plus, if he actually won the belt, can you imagine Volk still going up? Geji Volkanovski, Holy shit, take my money. I'm starting to think Khabib really thinks Charles can win if he's stepping back into a coaching role and attending the fight. 155 kinda boring with the same few fighters at the top, Justin, etc. Rather see him go up and fight Colby or Leon. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.